Hello, Internet! It is time for another Wednesday serial. This time, I'm talking about Wolverine #1. So, if you don't know, Wolverine is a character that was introduced in The Incredible Hulk way long ago as an opponent that could keep healing himself and had claws, thus Wolverine, and therefore to be an opponent for the Hulk, and then was brought back again for Giant X-Men #1 to be part of the second big X-Men team, along with Storm and Nightcrawler and Colossus and others. And since then he's been a huge sensation. Lots of fans have loved him, and they've gone on to describe the fact that he got his metal claws because they were bound to his bone claws that pop out through something called Weapon X, where they put him in a tube and he's like, brrr, and they got metal all over him. Then he was like really angry and didn't remember things, and that's been twisted around 5 different ways. So you can take what continuity you want there. It all leads to the same thing. He gets angry at someone from his past and generally is them. And so then you go back even further, you find out he was born around the time of the American Revolution, so his healing tactic keeps keeping him generally young, even though he chomps on a cigarette all the time, is about 5 feet tall, and says bub. So but anyways, yeah, he was around during that time and just kept fighting and kept forgetting things, and has just been on a stupid path throughout life. And it's so overblown, and I've read so little, I'm probably not the best to go on from there. So before I actually start talking about the comic, I thought I'd start with just Wolverine as a character. I mean, recently he's gone through this whole thing where he's been fighting the great big bad that's been controlling his life throughout Weapon X to before that, and all this that was tied together with Wolverine Origins, with Way writing it. And from what I read from the synopsis, it sounded like a really interesting 1 to 3 part arc, but when you realize it's 40 some issues, it's like, oh, well, Way wrote it, so it's going to not be super to read. So I didn't actually read it, and I've recently tried to go back and read some Wolverine, the old Claremont bit, with just the Wolverine miniseries that got so many people hooked on the character as a concept beyond just a feral beast, but also tempered with the idea of the samurai warrior. And actually reading the intro and some of the thoughts behind it were actually much cooler than the execution. And then was starting to work my way through the Weapon X mini that defined Wolverine again through the program, and it doesn't hold water with me. Everything's so serious, everything's so cutthroat that it just seems to lack any amount of power for me. That being said, I've been an X-Men fan for a long time, and there's some great arcs with Wolverine. X-Men number 25 comes to mind, where he gets the adamantium ripped out. That was a really powerful moment to see a character like that essentially reduced to nothing, and I remember some of that arc initially with him kind of refining himself and his worth, as he wasn't as badass as he was before, was actually kind of interesting. Then again, his bit in Civil War, I actually really liked the fact that Wolverine was the one character being like, so a guy blew up and killed a bunch of kids on a bus, and we're fighting each other and not going after him? We should do that. No one else is? Fine. I'll do that. Y'all. So, yeah. That was a cool arc, and actually seeing him go through all that and all the politics behind it, and him just saying, look, I don't care, I just want to get this guy. He took out a bus full of kids. He's the most wanted man in America. And just him cutting through the BS with just pure logic of usually how things worked was a really interesting story. But all that's digressing, and my point here is Wolverine's had some ups and some downs, and recently I feel it's been kind of a down. At the very least, I'm sure Marvel understood that Wolverine has had a lot of heavy continuity, and I feel this issue #1 is a way to start anew. Anyways, this comic is the idea of Wolverine goes to hell. Well, at least that's the point of the arc. You only actually see him in hell for about 2 pages. And most of it is actually his buddy Wraith, who is in the Weapon X program with him, though I don't remember him from any Weapon X stuff prior. I'm sure he was in some comic somewhere, but as a fairly big Deadpool fan and having read some other stuff related to Weapon X, he apparently wasn't a big part of the program. Anyways, it's him, and Wraith has since become a man of religion, and he's telling people about all these evils and da-da-da, but it's ironic because he was once the terrible killer, and they get into a bit of the morality of, well, for people who've seen and done what we've done, can there ever be salvation? And I'm getting the idea that, yeah, Wolverine has done all these things, but it's kind of him trying to see if he can ever find some peace and redemption, because for so long now he's been doing so much good, I guess, between the X-Men and the Avengers and whatnot, but still kind of being the rough, gruff guy that he is. So I see what they're getting at, but I guess ultimately it'll be interesting to see where it goes with that. But considering the whole premise was Wolverine goes to hell and only seeing for 2 pages, it was a bit disappointing, and took me back to a story that I really liked, Slingers back in the day, a Spider-Man spin-off, kind of, and how they dealt with hell, where their mentor who gave them powers was trapped in hell because of the devil. And at first they wanted to reject him because he had screwed them over, as anyone who deals with the devil in some way would, because in some ways he was the devil to them. And that was kind of an interesting play. But then to also see them being, no, we're heroes, we need to go save him. And that was just such an interesting take. And now here you have Wolverine thrown in hell dealing with the devil, though not Mephisto, I guess, because Mephisto's tainted or taken for another comic, which just raises a question of how many things of hell can you have in one general shared continuity. But hey, I just think it's kind of true. I mean, you kind of know how it ends. I mean, he'd have to work to save himself, but in the end, one can only choose their own path. I mean, I imagine that's roughly how it's going to end up being the moral. I could be terribly wrong, but at the end of it all, I mean, I only picked up this book because it was on sale, because the comic distributor wanted to get me hooked, so they sold it to me for $1 off the cover price. And I'm not interested to pick up any more. And it should also be noted that there's a Silver Samurai backup in the back to justify the price point, but it was a mishmash of a blurry line art and word bubbles describing a battle and the weighing on his soul, and it seemed kind of sloppy to me. So yeah, overall, they're starting over Wolverine again, and once again, I don't care. Yeah, I just really wanted to push out another video, because since my last real video, I think my subscription base has doubled, which, thank you so much all. And so yeah, sorry if this one's a little more rambly. I didn't really have so much focus, but I thought I'd just share some thoughts on the Wolverine. So I'll hit you soon with another comic review. Any questions or comments or requests or insults or what have you, there's comments, you can message me, and I'm on Twitter and Facebook. If anyone cares, let me know, and I can put that up in the next video and be like, oh my gosh, I am social. Yes. Good day.